Hi, I'm Tom Pike, executive producer of the sci-fi series Personal Space. It's about astronauts who have no idea their therapy sessions are being broadcast on Earth as reality TV. Personal Space is a digital series that will be distributed solely on the internet. Anytime you make content for the internet, you're competing with all kinds of other things, other web shows, cat videos, even listicles. You have to remember that your content has to be competitive with that, because people can switch away from what you made at any moment. I've seen a lot of smart people try to do a very silly thing, which is to try and make web shows that don't actually work in the web space. People like me grew up watching films and TV, and now that we're making our own material, we're trying to recreate the things we saw as kids. That tends to lead to people making web shows that look like cheap TV. I don't think that's a necessary result. I think web shows can be used to tell beautiful stories. They're just not the same stories you tell on a television show, and you wouldn't tell them in the same way. Let me explain what I mean using Personal Space as an example. Personal Space is shot vlog style, meaning in the style of a video log. We're on board a spaceship and we're seeing the crew's therapy sessions from the perspective of their therapy computer. We hear about events taking place all over the ship and we experience an expansive story, but we stay focused in one room, a classical unity of place. It's almost like a stage play in that way. This conceit lets us create a show that looks as good as anything on TV by eliminating expenses and complications that are unnecessary to the story. It is a concept designed to work with its medium rather than against it. Here's an example of how not to do web shows, also from my own experience. I once wrote a space pilot for a TV show that was full of explosions and adventure, and when my frequent collaborators loved it, we tried to scale it down into a web show so that we could make it. It had tiny explosions and tiny adventure, and if we'd actually ever ended up making this thing, it would have just looked cheap. We'd have spread ourselves thin across a dozen sets and visual effects. It's better to do a couple of things excellently than a lot of things badly. The digital medium has constraints. You have to deal with short attention spans, so your show needs to have episodes that are 3 to 7 minutes long tops. And you have to be able to make your show work on a small budget. But there's a zen to this, realizing that those constraints are not bad. You just have to stop fighting against them, turn them into an ally instead of an enemy. For example, when you only have 5 minutes to tell a story, every choice you make matters, which is awesome. People sometimes get bogged down in questions when I tell them we're going to be shooting 170 minutes of content for $45,000. They assume that I'm going to need to build all these sets and do these company moves and shoot all these action sequences that we don't need to do. In fact, we couldn't tell the story that we want to tell if we did do these things. So, if you want to make great digital content, free yourself of these questions. Ask yourself instead, what assets do I have? Maybe you have a great camera, a location you can use for free, and a talent for creepy sound design. That's awesome. Now here's a challenge. Make a show that uses those things, and only those things. This is like the old literary challenge known as a lipogram, where you try to write a novel without using the letter E. It's totally possible, it just requires you to be inventive. Suppose the letter E cost you $5,000 every time you went to type it. You'd ask yourself, do I really need this word that uses the letter E, or can I use another word instead? Personal Space would never have occurred to us while we were still trying to tell a story with missiles and explosions. And it's much more beautiful, not to mention original, than what we would have done if we'd had more money and we never stopped to ask ourselves, what do we really need in order to tell a good story? Your things I need may be different from my things I need. By having a character study confined to a single room, we didn't need grips, we didn't need trucks or location managers. We didn't need to build an entire spaceship interior. What we do need is a compelling visual reason to keep watching. We're only building one set, so that set has to look amazing, and we're staring at actors' faces the whole time, so those actors have to be incredible. But that's the beauty of it. Once you've freed yourself of the unnecessary things, you can focus on the things you do need and make them top rate. In your case, that could be a great lighting designer or a wonderful composer. For Personal Space, our set and our cast will be TV quality. Casting Personal Space was a 10-month process. It's tough when you're reaching out to TV talent and none of them know who you are, but we knew what we wanted, we were patient, and, this is not optional, we had great scripts. Our concept also means that each character is going to have a ton of screen time, and the actors knew from the way it was written that we wouldn't be trying to hide story problems under dazzling visual effects or blaring sound design. They were going to be asked to do character-based drama and character-based comedy, which is what a lot of them got into the business to do in the first place. So we ended up with a cast I grew up seeing on TV, and we can afford them because we ditched the things we don't need. Of course, we do still need some money, and that brings us to crowdfunding. Because we focused on our cast, they're front and center in our crowdfunding campaign for Personal Space. If you were focusing on your psychedelic visuals, then you'd want your concept art in that place. Focus on the essentials, then make those essential things great, and the same crowdfunding approach could work for you. When you're prepping a project you intend to crowdfund, it forces you to think about what it is that actually excites someone about your project. Keep those things. Make them awesome. Ditch the rest. In the end, nothing will be shown on screen that is not TV quality, and we'll have done it for $45,000. So, that's how you make a web series look as good as television, by not trying to make it the way you make television. Personal Space is crowdfunding now. We hope you'll join us in space.